Congresswoman's hidden genius explodes as she silences Elon Musk with equations so precise they unravel his empire, leaving the tech titan stunned and the world in awe. The National Technology Summit conference room crackled with a tension so thick it seemed to pulse through the air, a battlefield where titans of innovation and guardians of policy collided. In the front row sat Elon Musk, the billionaire visionary whose audacity had reshaped the cosmos, his arms crossed, a smug grin dancing on his lips. For weeks, he'd waged a merciless public campaign against Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, mocking her as a politician clueless about the intricacies of rocket science. His latest barb, a vicious tweet, had set the stage. Politicians crafting space policy is like letting a toddler design a formula rocket engine. Dangerous and dangerous. But as Crockett stepped to the podium, a thick technical dossier in hand, the room's energy shifted. Musk's confident smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of unease as she opened to a page scrawled with complex equations, penned in her own meticulous handwriting. "Mr. Musk," she began, her voice a calm yet unyielding force, honed by months of relentless preparation. "You've questioned my grasp of rocket science. Allow me to demonstrate precisely how well I understand your rockets." What unfolded in the next 30-minute seconds was not just a rebuttal. It was a seismic, intellectual annihilation, a moment that left the world's most celebrated engineer-entrepreneur speechless and shattered Silicon Valley's smug assumptions about Washington's competence. This was no ordinary clash. It was a clash. It was a reckoning for, a testament to a Harvard-trained lawyer with a secret engineering prowess, schooling the rocket man on his own turf, forcing a seismic shift in how the tech world viewed political oversight. Before we plunge into this electrifying showdown, drop a comment with where you're watching from and smash that subscribe button to catch every pulse-pounding political confrontation where preparation meets arrogance head-on. Now, let's unravel the saga of how Jasmine Crockett turned Elon Musk's hubris into a lesson that rocked the tech universe. The stage was primed for a confrontation that would redefine the boundaries between innovation and accountability, a clash between a politician armed with hidden expertise and a tech titan blinded by his own legend. To grasp the magnitude of this moment, we must first explore the explosive backdrop that had been simmering for months, the contrasting worlds of Crockett and Musk, and the stakes that made this encounter a historic turning point. Jasmine Crockett, at 42, was no ordinary congresswoman. The Texas representative carried a secret weapon that Silicon Valley had utterly failed to detect. While her Harvard law degree and meteoric rise through Texas politics were public knowledge, buried beneath her political persona was a staggering truth. Before law school, Crockett had earned a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Prairie View A&M University, graduating summa cum laude with a specialization in aerospace systems. For 8 years as a private attorney, she wasn't just practicing law, she was a specialist in aerospace intellectual property, working with NASA contractors, dissecting patent applications for rocket propulsion systems, and immersing herself in the technical intricacies of space exploration. Her client roster included firms that rivaled SpaceX, granting her unparalleled insight into the engineering challenges and safety protocols that defined the industry. She'd spent countless hours in NASA facilities, poring over test data, analyzing failure reports, and grappling with the high-stakes physics of spaceflight. Yet Crockett had kept this expertise under wraps during her political ascent, a strategic choice born of necessity. She knew that in the rough-and-tumble world of campaigns, voters prized substance over style, relatability over technical prowess, and being labeled a tech nerd could alienate her base. Her silence had served her well, until now, when the moment demanded she unleash her hidden brilliance to confront a man who'd underestimated her at his peril. Elon Musk, at 52, was the colossus of modern innovation, a billionaire whose audacious vision had propelled SpaceX to dizzying heights. His company had rewritten the rules of space exploration, becoming the first private entity to ferry astronauts to the International Space Station and slashing launch costs with reusable rockets. But Musk's triumphs had bred an arrogance that was increasingly reckless. Over the past year, he'd waged a relentless public war against government regulation, his X platform a megaphone for deriding politicians who dared question SpaceX's safety practices. When Crockett introduced legislation mandating independent safety audits for commercial crewed flights, Musk unleashed a vitriolic social media onslaught. Congresswoman Crockett wants to cripple American space exploration because she can't comprehend the tech, he posted to his 100 million followers. This is what happens when lawyers meddle in rocket science. Pathetic. His attacks were personal and unrelenting, questioning her intelligence, her motives, and her legitimacy to weigh in on space policy. He even insinuated her oversight proposals stemmed from envy of SpaceX's success rather than genuine concern for astronaut safety. What Musk didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that Crockett had been quietly amassing a case against SpaceX for months. Armed with her engineering acumen and legal precision, she'd been dissecting the company's safety data, scrutinizing test results, and consulting independent aerospace engineers, alarmed by SpaceX's risk tolerance. The deeper she dug, the more troubling the patterns became. SpaceX was pushing boundaries that dazzled the public but unnerved experts, accepting higher risks than traditional aerospace firms, with public claims of mission readiness often at odds with internal engineering assessments. The National Technology Summit was the perfect arena for Musk to continue his anti-regulation crusade. Packed with tech moguls, venture capitalists, and industry journalists who shared his disdain for government oversight, the summit's panel on space regulation promised to be a friendly stage for Musk to preach innovation over bureaucracy. But Crockett had accepted the invitation with a different agenda. She'd spent weeks preparing, knowing this was her one shot to prove she was not just another politician with talking points. She was a force who could match Musk's technical prowess, blow for blow. The stakes were astronomical. If Crockett faltered, failed to substantiate her claims with ironclad expertise, it would cement Musk's narrative and undermine congressional oversight of the commercial space industry. But if she succeeded, she'd force a tectonic shift in how Silicon Valley viewed Washington, proving that politicians could wield technical mastery as a weapon. The panel began with a veneer of civility, the moderator probing both speakers on their visions for America's space future. Crockett spoke first, her voice steady and resolute, outlining the need for robust safety oversight to protect astronauts and safeguard billions in taxpayer-funded contracts. Space exploration is a national treasure, she said, her words carrying a quiet intensity, but its promise depends on ensuring every mission prioritizes human lives over corporate timelines. Musk's response was a masterclass in condescension, his trademark smirk widening as he leaned forward, poised to deliver what he believed would be a knockout punch. "Look, I have immense respect for Congresswoman Crockett's legal skills," he declared, his tone dripping with mockery. "But this is the core issue with our regulatory system. We have people dictating rocket science who've never studied physics, never touched a propulsion system, and frankly wouldn't know a turbopump from a turbocharger." The audience chuckled, tech executives nodding in approval, reveling in the Elon Musk they'd come to see, brilliant, brash, and dismissive of government meddling. "These aren't abstract policy debates," Musk pressed, warming to his theme, his voice laced with disdain. "When you're building a rocket engine burning at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, consuming tons of propellant per second, you can't rely on legal briefs or political rhetoric to make sound decisions. You need people who grasp the fundamental physics and engineering principles at play." He paused for effect, locking eyes with Crockett, his challenge a gauntlet thrown with venom. "With all due respect, I've seen no sign that the Congresswoman possesses that expertise to..." The room fell silent, the air heavy with anticipation. Musk had dared Crockett to prove she belonged in a technical arena, dominated by one of the world's greatest engineers. Every eye turned to her, expecting a politician's deflection. They were about to witness something far greater, a revelation that would shake the room to its core. Crockett stood motionless, remained unruffled, her composure a stark contrast to Musk's bravado. She'd anticipated this moment, prepared for it, with months, preparation of preparation, that would soon leave the room in stunned silence. "Mr. Musk," she replied, her voice calm but measured, laced with a steel edge that cut through the tension. "I respect your passion for technical expertise in rocket engineering. You're right, it's immensely complex and demands deep knowledge. So let's dive into some specific technical concerns with SpaceX's systems." She opened her dossier, revealing a page of graphs and specifications that sent a ripple of surprise through the audience. "Let's begin with a look at your Raptor engine's combustion instability issues." The room went deathly quiet, the atmosphere shifting from amusement to astonishment. This was no vague political critique. This was a direct plunge into the technical heart of SpaceX's flagship technology. "Your test data from the past 18 months reveals persistent high-frequency pressure oscillations in the combustion chambers," she continued, her voice steady as her pointed to a graph, her finger tracing a line of damning evidence. "Frequency analysis shows peaks between 2800 and 3200 Hz, corresponding to acoustic resonance patterns in your pre-burners and burner and main combustion chambers." Musk's smirk vanished, his expression morphing into one of wary disbelief, a flicker of unease. These were not the broad politician's concerns of a politician. They were the precise, incisive observations of an engineer who understood rocket propulsion at its very core. "What's deeply troubling," Crockett pressed on, her tone sharpening with urgency, "is that these oscillations occur during the critical transition from sea level to vacuum operations, a phase where engine reliability is paramount for crew safety. Your internal reports label these as anomalous pressure events, occurring in a staggering 43% of test firings over the past year." She produced a document bearing NASA's official letterhead, its presence a thunderbolt in the room, its weight undeniable. "This is SpaceX's safety assessment submitted to NASA 8 months ago. Your propulsion team explicitly acknowledges that this combustion instability remains an unresolved technical risk, requiring further analysis and testing." Her voice grew fiercer, each word a spark. Yet, a mere 6 weeks later, SpaceX publicly declared the Raptor engine ready for crewed missions. The contradiction was a glaring chasm, a reckless gap between internal caution and public bravado that Crockett had exposed with surgical precision that left the audience reeling. Musk scrambled to rally, his voice less certain now, assured, a tremor betraying his unease. "Those are standard engineering challenges we address through iterative testing," he said, his tone defensive. "That's how innovation works. You push the limits, face issues, and solve them. NASA gets this process." Crockett nodded, seizing the opening with a response that was both measured and merciless. "Absolutely. Iterative testing is vital, the backbone of progress. But the real issue isn't the problems you encounter. It's the reckless disconnect between identifying those risks and proclaiming mission readiness." She flipped to another page in her dossier, her movements deliberate, her focus an unyielding laser. "Let's turn to your heat shield protection system. Your pack's thermal protection material is groundbreaking, and I commend SpaceX's bold innovation. But your own test data reveals a critical flaw. The ablation rate degrades faster than your original design specifications promised." The audience was utterly spellbound now, journalists scribbling frantically, tech executives exchanging glances of stunned disbelief. Crockett's command of technical detail was nothing short of staggering, a revelation that rewrote the narrative in the room. After conducting my own analysis of your thermal protection tests, she continued, her voice unyielding, I found that the ablation rate, the rate at which the material erodes, increases by a dramatic 38% with each reuse cycle, meaning your heat shield offers less protection with every flight. This is especially critical for missions involving multiple orbital maneuvers or extended durations. She locked eyes with Musk, her words a piercing accusation blade. Your own internal reports admit that after the fourth reuse, the safety margins fall below NASA's minimum requirements for crewed flights. Yet, SpaceX continues to market these vehicles as safe for unlimited reuse without reservation. The silence in the room was deafening, a testament to the crushing weight of her evidence, which had obliterated Musk's narrative of flawless engineering triumph. Musk's usual swagger was gone, his confidence eroded by the onslaught of Crockett's precision. His responses were growing increasingly defensive, his composure unraveling as he faced an adversary he couldn't outtalk. Sensing his unease vulnerability, Crockett prepared to deliver the coup de grace that would seal her triumph. But Musk, in a desperate bid to regain control, made a catastrophic fatal error that would hand her the perfect opening. Congresswoman, he said, a trace of panic creeping into his voice. You're obviously clearly relying on reading from materials prepared by your staff. These are highly complex technical issues that demand decades of hands-on experience to master, truly understand. I've worked on propulsion for over 20 years, building rockets. The real-world complexities challenges are far more nuanced than what you can glean from reports alone. It was a grave miscalculation, the wrong move, a condescending jab that dismissed her expertise and her authenticity, suggesting she was merely parroting someone else's work. Crockett's response was a masterclass in calm, measured, and utterly devastating. Mr. Musk, she said, her voice a quiet storm that seemed to shake the room. You're absolutely correct that these issues require deep technical understanding. That's precisely why I didn't rely on any staff reports. She paused, letting the tension in the room build to a suffocating crescendo, then reached into her briefcase to pulled out a leather portfolio, its appearance drawing audible gasps from the crowd. Before I entered politics, I earned a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, with a specialization in aerospace systems, graduating summa cum laude. For 8 years, I worked as an intellectual property attorney, specializing in aerospace, specializing in rocket propulsion patents. I've analyzed systems. I worked with NASA contractors, reviewed every technical document SpaceX has filed with NASA, every patent application your company has submitted, and every safety report in your public archive record. The revelation was a seismic shockwave, a thunderbolt that obliterated the audience's assumptions. They'd thought they were watching a politician challenge a tech titan. Now they saw an engineer dismantling his empire with unmatched expertise. She opened the portfolio, revealing pages of a treasure trove of handwritten calculations, intricate technical diagrams, and mathematical proofs, each line meticulously crafted in her own hand. Since you've challenged my technical grasp understanding, she said, placing a page where cameras could capture its clarity, let me show you something that might surprise you. The document was a marvel of engineering rigor, dense with complex equations, force diagrams, and detailed notes, a masterpiece that no staffer could claim. This is my own independent analysis of your Merlin 1D engine's thrust vectoring system, she declared, her voice ringing with authority. Your published specifications claim an 8-degree gimbal range with full thrust vectoring authority control. But when I calculated the moment arms required to achieve that, factoring in the engine's mass properties and the vehicle's center of gravity envelope, the numbers simply don't add up. Her words were a relentless hammer, each one striking at Musk's pride. Either your thrust vectoring system is operating with significantly higher gimbal forces than you've disclosed, which raises safety concerns, or your published control authority is overstated," she continued, her tone unyielding. "I've run these calculations 3 different ways, and the discrepancy persists, holds consistent." The technical brilliance was breathtaking, a level of analysis that left no room for dismissal. "I sent this analysis to 4 independent aerospace engineers, including 2 former NASA propulsion specialists," she added, her voice steady as a rock. "All 4 verified my findings, agreeing that there's a critical, significant mismatch between SpaceX's public claims, published specifications, and the physical realities requirements of your thrust vectoring system." Musk stared at the calculations, his face a mask of stunned disbelief shock, a man confronting a reality he'd never imagined, a politician who'd out-engineered him. These were not staff-prepared notes. They were the work of a mind as formidable as any in his inner circle. But Crockett had one final, earth-shattering blow, a revelation that would cement her triumph and leave an indelible mark on the industry. She opened a final document, a comprehensive timeline projected onto the screen behind her, its contents a damning indictment. "This brings us to the heart of the issue," she said, her voice resonating with the authority of someone who'd done the exhaustive work. "The problem isn't just engineering challenges. Every aerospace firm faces those. It's the systematic pattern of announcing mission readiness before your engineers have resolved critical safety concerns." The timeline was a chilling exposé, detailing 17 instances over 2 years where SpaceX committed to launch schedules, while internal reports flagged unresolved technical risks issues. "This isn't a question of engineering prowess, it's a failure of leadership, a management failure that endangers astronaut crews and betrays the public's trust." Her voice rose, a clarion call that seemed to echo beyond the room's walls. "This is a management problem that puts lives at risk." She faced Musk directly, her gaze a piercing challenge that demanded accountability. "Mr. Musk, you've built an extraordinary company, a remarkable company that has achieved incredible things," she said, her tone measured but unflinching. "But when you dismiss regulatory oversight as technically illiterate meddling interference, you're ignoring the reality fact that some of us have done the rigorous work to understand your systems as deeply as you do." The room was a crucible of silence, every word landing with the weight of truth. For the first time in his storied career, Elon Musk was utterly speechless, a titan of industry silenced. The man who'd built his empire on technical brilliance and quick-witted retorts sat frozen mute, grappling with an adversary who'd outmaneuvered him on his own technical terrain. When he finally found his voice spoke, his tone was subdued, stripped of its usual bravado, a shadow of the confidence he'd exuded moments before. "Congresswoman," he said, his voice quieter now, tinged with respect. "I must admit, you've clearly done your homework. These are serious technical concerns that deserve serious answers consideration." The concession was seismic, a tech titan acknowledging a politician's technical superiority before a room of industry giants, an audience stunned into silence that left the room reeling. The room erupted in a murmur of disbelief murmurs, the weight of the moment crashing over them like a tidal wave. The aftermath was nothing short of a firestorm. Within seconds, clips of Crockett's technical tour de force presentation exploded across social media, the hashtag #MoreCrockettSchoolsMusk surging to the top of global trends. Aerospace engineers, policy analysts wonks, and stunned onlookers shared the footage moment of a congresswoman who'd out-engineered a billionaire with surgical precision. "This is what happens when you underestimate someone who's done the work," one engineer tweeted, her words becoming a rallying cry. Major news outlets scrambled to verify her claims, and the results were unanimous. The New York Times convened a panel of aerospace engineers who declared her calculations technically impeccable sound and her concerns deeply troubling, a wake-up call for the industry. The Wall Street Journal's analysis, titled when politicians outsmart CEOs, hailed her hidden expertise as a game-changer for regulatory oversight. Aviation Week, the aerospace industry's gold standard, published a cover feature story calling the exchange a watershed moment in the relationship between commercial space and government, praising Crockett's analysis as more rigorous than many industry reports. The magazine highlighted her ability to expose the disconnect between SpaceX's engineering realities and its public claims, a critique that was both well-founded and long overdue. The public's reaction was electric, with viral memes celebrating Rocket Jark and op-eds lauding her as a new model of leadership, a politician who wielded expertise with the precision of a scalpel. Musk's response was a stunning reversal, a testament to the undeniable power of Crockett's truth. Hours after the panel, he took to X, his tone markedly different. "Had an eye-opening discussion with Congresswoman Crockett today," he wrote. "She raised technical points that merit serious consideration. We're launching immediate safety reviews for all crewed mission systems. Sometimes, the sharpest critique comes from unexpected sources." The shift was unprecedented. A man who'd once mocked regulatory oversight as technically illiterate, now publicly embracing its value. Observers noted it was Musk's most significant pivot on government relations in his career, a humbling moment that reshaped his approach to accountability. SpaceX's actions were equally dramatic. Within a week, the company announced a sweeping review of its safety protocols, directly addressing Crockett's concerns about combustion instability and heat shield degradation. They committed to detailed technical briefings for congressional oversight committees and created a new role, Chief of Safety Officer, to report directly to NASA on crewed mission readiness. The industry response was a seismic shift as other tech giants grappled with the realization that their assumptions about politicians' ignorance were obsolete. Silicon Valley's dismissive attitude toward Washington began to crumble, replaced by a newfound respect for informed scrutiny. Companies like Boeing and Blue Origin followed suit, hiring technical liaisons with regulatory expertise to engage with policymakers. Tech firms poured resources into educating lawmakers, recognizing that the days of brushing off oversight were over. The space industry embraced transparent safety measures, leading to stronger standards and oversight mechanisms that safeguarded astronauts and taxpayer investments. Crockett's stand had sparked a revolution, proving that rigorous accountability could coexist with innovation, strengthening both. For Crockett, the victory was a defining moment, establishing her as the preeminent voice in Congress on space and technology. Her office was inundated with requests for technical briefings as lawmakers sought her expertise to navigate the complexities of industry regulation. She became a sought-after speaker at MIT Caltech and aerospace conferences, a bridge between the worlds of engineering and governance. Her story inspired a generation of engineers and policymakers, showing that expertise could transcend politics and hold power to account. Engineering schools adopted the confrontation as a case study, a masterclass in blending technical rigor with public advocacy. Crockett showed us how to speak truth with precision, one Stanford professor said, her lecture halls dissecting the moment a politician outmaneuvered a tech icon. The exchange became a beacon for aspiring leaders, proof that preparation and knowledge could triumph over arrogance. The broader lesson resonated across industries. In a world of complex technology, the most effective leaders are those who marry expertise with the courage to challenge the powerful, ensuring innovation serves humanity, not just headlines. Crockett's triumph is a clarion call for our time, a reminder that truth, when wielded with precision and passion, can reshape the future. It challenges us to demand leaders who do the work, who refuse to be cowed by hubris, and who fight for a world where progress lifts everyone. As we navigate the frontier of technology and governance, let this story inspire us to champion knowledge, accountability, and the relentless pursuit of what's right. If this saga of brilliance and unyielding courage set your heart ablaze, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of truth-conquering arrogance. Comment below, which moment in Crockett's takedown left you speechless? Share stories of hidden expertise from your own world, moments where unsung heroes rose to shine. Together, let's build a future where knowledge and integrity lead the way, a future worthy of the stars.